over the oceans like slave boats shipping me. Hashtag that's the only way that they listen, be the vocalist that verifies it vividly. I bring the vortex straight to your vicinity. What is outside is within. The mind regulates the hand that masters the pen. The pen is mightier than the sword, but the tongue is mightier still. The stargate to the mind's revealed. Yeah, yo, what's outside is within. The mind regulates the hand that masters the pen. The pen is mightier than the sword, but the tongue is mightier still. The stargate to the mind's revealed. The vortex. Peace, everybody. There's your host, Cyclonius. This is season 2, episode 1 of the Verbal Vortex. We have some special guests with us today. Would you like to tell the people who you are?
Greetings, everyone. My name's Daryl.
My name's Ella. Hi.
And together we're Electric Future Foods, and we've got a book out together called From Plant to Plate, which is all about teaching kids how to grow food and cook food and enjoy the whole process.
Yeah, and I also have 4 books out called My Grandma's Magic Recipes. Each one's set in a different season, and it's all about celebrating family relationships. So it focuses on a little boy and his grandma and the sort of fun they have through the seasons. And at the back of each book, there's a couple of recipes you can cook together as a family.
Very interesting. And I would like to just say before we get on with the questions, it's a pleasure to have you guys on the platform.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you
very much.
So let's start with the first question. The first question I have is, what inspired you to write your current vegan book, From Plant to Plate?
I think our children,
Yeah,
probably. So we've got 2 boys.
Right.
very little. And quite early in their lives, they've seen us trying to grow food and just like struggling and trying to make sense of this process. And they were very into it as well. And then we quickly noticed how our first son would engage with food that he'd see growing. It's like, it's not even a case of him being a picky eater. He wants to try and experiment vegetables and new things, which is the polar opposite for what you hear kids want to do, just generally in life. And we thought it would be good to kind of put this knowledge together so other people can experience the same thing, because, we've both noticed, like, food is a problem. Well, like, the quality and standard of food has just been, over time, since we've been being vegan as well, it's just going down, and you just need to be on your A game, and you need the knowledge in there almost as your subconscious to be able to kind of navigate through and really keep yourself healthy.
It doesn't make sense to us that you've got the label organic food, where it's like, why aren't we just labeling food that has been grown with chemicals? And like the sort of standard should be organic, tasty food.
Yeah.
And our little boy, when he started to explore and like come to the allotment with us and grow food, he can like name food. He sees the leaves and he knows that, oh, that's a tomato, that's a potato, that's fennel, and he'll be picking them and eating them, and then he's sort of spreading the word amongst his friends as well, getting them to start trying food. And he's got the attitude now of, he sort of says, well, my taste buds will change as I get older, so let me try it again and see if I like it. And he'll go from maybe, oh, I don't like that, and then a couple of months later he'll try it again and see if he likes it.
It's really inspiring, but just like you touched on, like, you know, to be doing it as a family. You know, a lot of people, I find, they talk the good talk, but it's hard to walk the good walk. So again, that's to me, it's really inspiring to hear that you as a family are doing this.
Don't get us wrong, it can be stressful, man.
No, I can imagine. I can imagine, but like, you know,
you gotta try.
Exactly. So can you provide an overview of the key themes and messages readers can expect to find in your book?
Do you want to take this one?
Right. So what we were really interested in was like connecting people to the earth and to the soil. And so in this book, we didn't just want to make something that's about just simply growing food and recipes. We wanted people to understand that you've got to nourish the soil and to start viewing ourselves as like guardians of the earth. So how do we look after the soil? And the soil's so magical because it's all like, we see it almost like a galaxy, so it's like as above so below. So you've got all of these microbes and fungus and insects, and that we shouldn't be frightened of that it's like this sort of almost a constellation of all these things that are working together, and that part of our role is to nourish that and to look after it, to sort of feed it with like organic matter and compost, and that then when we do that, we wanted them to see the connection between that and having a diverse gut biome. So making sure that there's lots of different bacteria in your gut so that you can get the nutrients from the food, just like the soil works, and or you know, like in a similar way. And so part of our book is looking at the soil, how can we nourish it, looking at our gut and what it needs and that diversity of food, and then going on to how you grow plants, and then going on to some really simple recipes that kids can do. I mean, our target audience like 7 years up, but our oldest son just turned 6, and he's helped do all of the recipes with us. And so we've tested them out in a kitchen with like 2 under 5s, and have selected recipes that we've sort of simplified so that they can participate, and it can be,
you can do it anywhere.
And it's as unstressful as possible for you as a parent.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, that was the sort of concept for it.
And it's interesting kind of doing that and seeing the reaction to the book. There's a lot of adults who are learning stuff as well from it, because there's so much we just get through life not understanding how our human spacesuit works, how our digestion works. We just take, oh, you need 5 a day, or do you know what I mean? Like, you take what you're taught of in terms of vitamins. We don't even know where vitamins came from. So there's little nuggets in the book that kind of expound on that to get people just to think more about health and well-being and what we're putting into ourselves and how it nourishes us, and how to kind of close the gap between ourselves and nutrition, and that we've all got the power and tools to at least provide some of it ourselves.
Nice. I like that. So how did your background in writing children's books influence the style and tone of your book From Plant to Plate?
Well, this is like our first book together.
But Ella's very seasoned with children, so I think a lot of the direction kind of came from her. Like, I was using too many big words in the writing process, and she's like, kids ain't gonna understand that. We've got to reword that. So there was a lot of that kind of early editing stages.
So my background is a lot in education. So I've worked in museums and galleries, like leading education programs and like in sort of with charities and stuff. So I've had a lot of experience delivering creative workshops with children. So yeah, I guess, but Daryl's really good at researching, and so together we kind of, it complemented each other. So he'd be going in on the research, and then I'd be going, how do we say that in a simple way that young people can understand?
That's really good that you know, it's put a certain way for younger minds to just kind of absorb. It's really good. So what would you say sets your book apart from other resources on veganism and plant-based cooking?
I guess it's not even like we're just trying to push veganism. We're just trying to celebrate plants. So like, you do you. Like we've gone on a journey where we've become fully plant-based, and that's just because of the benefits we saw on our health. And so, but it's not like we've got an agenda for other people, because all we'd love is for people to be more in tune with their bodies so they can feel what is benefiting them and understand when actually it's a sugar high that's getting them to want to eat something rather than their body needing it. But I think with the book, and it was interesting working with the publishers, because there's obviously a standard way that these things are normally delivered, and it's not focusing on the soil. It's like, you remember at school you got the diagram of a plant and how it works and photosynthesis, and all of that's been done a lot, and there is a bit of that in the book. But I think we've brought in more up-to-date research on soil health, and I think that's quite different. I haven't seen a lot of stuff that's about that.
Yeah, and I think kind of being culturally like on point with it, like especially with the gardening side of things, like a lot of the YouTube gardening content and stuff like that, there's not many black and brown faces in it.
That's right.
And then when you look at the demographics of the world, it's mainly us growing food, and that's something that we've kind of seen echoed around food constantly. Like, you'd watch MasterChef and the deadest cooks are always the black people. It doesn't make sense.
That's right.
And you just like, you'd be like, oh, you know, they're getting voted off in the first round, kind of thing. Like, and these kind of motifs, it's good to kind of dispel them, that well, we know we can cook and we've got a certain relationship with food and with cultivating food. Like everyone can go into their families and find someone with the knowledge, but
Right.
the knowledge is kind of being lost generationally as well. So we wanted to kind of, especially with Ella's books on her kind of intergenerational relationships, is kind of close that gap and create spaces and places where we can all be together from different age ranges and groups and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like the subversive message of the books.
Yeah.
In
And
total, yeah.
I guess they just really reflect our life, because it's a lot of people who've read our books and then they might come to one of our allotment days where we get like the community onto our allotment, and we, you know, just we feed them and they weed and garden, or some people just have a little nap. But it's like getting all different types of people together, all different ages. But people say, oh, these books are just you. Like, and so I think there's something quite genuine about what we're creating. It's just stuff that we're really interested in, stuff that we've lived, that we've done with our kids, with our friends and family. And so it's almost just sharing that and hoping it resonates with people.
Yeah, no, but just hearing you say that, yeah, it sounds like it's real, it's organic. And, you know, even you doing stuff within the community like that, that's really interesting. Again, you know, it's easy to talk the talk, but it's harder to walk the walk. So. Yeah,
And
salute for that.
It's definitely not easy. Yeah, not easy, but yeah, it's worth it. It's rewarding.
Yeah, when you see the kids, like, it's actually better having more kids on the allotment because they start to just create their own world.
Right.
And so you see them, and like our 2-year-old would just be looking in the water butt that collects the water with his older cousin with a stick. For about half an hour, they're just talking like they're by a water cooler. And it's like, what are these guys talking about? But they're just like looking at all the insects. They're just chatting and creating their own stories.
That's dope. That's really. How do you approach the process of selecting and developing the recipes included in your book?
Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so I think most of the recipes were kind of focused on what we can grow in this climate, which isn't a lot. And also kind of with the publisher's direction, stuff that can be grown around the world as well, so that the book can have a bit more of a widespread appeal and things that we're kind of familiar with. So we didn't want to go too left field or too experimental or too many ingredients. It's kind of keeping the ingredients list down, which is not something that most people do, but still keep the flavors present as well. So it was basically fine-tuning that kind of balance, and kind of choosing stuff that's easy to grow, so people, when their first attempt at growing, they get a little bit of success with it, because it is quite, you're always learning with growing stuff, and there's always new challenges that will come up like year after year. When you think you've got it all sussed, something else will just come as a curveball and you have to react to it and be dynamic. But I think it's important that first experience, you get something back from it, and then that sparks the flame for you to kind of keep going.
Definitely.
Yeah, because it's that thing of like, we've sort of learnt to replace certain things. So in our cupboards, like the flour that we use, we might be using more spelt and whole grain flour. We might use coconut sugar instead of refined sugar. So we might drop a little bit of that into the recipes, but not too much, so that people, you know, and always provide alternatives, so you can replace this with this or that with that, to make it more accessible.
Oh, that's good, man. It's starting to make me think about my cupboards and what's in there.
Yeah, it's good to have a cupboard cleanse every now and then, and cupboard audits.
Trust me, I'll go into that a bit later with you guys about my journey with health and all that. But can you share a memorable moment or experience from your writing journey inside of the book, From Plant to Plate?
What stands out to you?
A very memorable moment is seeing the finished product kind of land in your hands after this thing that was just in your mind, and stuff that you kind of worked on in batches to deadlines kind of all come together into one bit, and see your kind of vision as a final product is always like a standout feature, where it's like, it's come from the mind and now it's real.
This is it.
Yeah.
And it's so much greater I think, than what was even in our mind, because there's a whole team that we're working with. So
Right.
there are like a couple of illustrators, there were the design people at the publishers, there's people who are helping with the food photography, and so it's like what was in our mind came to life, but just even amplified, you know?
Okay.
I think I was just so blown away by how it looked
Yeah.
at the end, from like all these Word documents, and then it's suddenly like this beautiful, colourful thing. You sort of you give your input on what you want it to look like, but it's lots of people who've brought it to life.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the feedback as well is also great as well, seeing how people then kind of take it, and it's quite eye-catching, the cover as well. So like people are spotting it in places and messaging us, oh, your book's in Canada, your book's here, your book's there. So that's quite a rewarding
Yes.
bit. It's
Yeah.
later on in the process, but that helps make it all worth it.
So how do you hope your book will impact readers and their perspectives on like veganism, gardening, and eating sustainable foods?
I hope everyone will try and grow one thing,
Yeah.
you know, and maybe just try and be outside a bit more, because we're
yeah.
so inside. We're on our laptops,
Yep.
we're on our phones, and just actually, I think there's been research now that like if you get your hands in the soil, it will trigger the production of serotonin, which will make you feel more happy. It can combat depression. So it's like actually that's something you can add to your toolkit as a grown up.
Right.
You can get your kids used to using nature as like a soothing tool, something that you look forward to doing,
yeah.
and being outside and just having that as part of your life. And try and grow one thing, because the idea that this tiny little dot is going to create a whole plant,
Yeah.
and then from that you're going to get all these other seeds, and then you can like it's every year.
continuous,
Yeah, I'm just
yeah,
like
yeah.
I can't get bored of that magic.
Yeah, and it kind of trains us in abundance thinking as well, kind of like watching plants and being like more still. You kind of see how nature works, and like how can we work more like nature instead of working against it or seeing nature as the problem.
Yeah, scarcity
Yeah.
is not a thing in nature. Like nature is just abundance.
It's
you
abundance,
know?
yeah.
And kind of being still and being in the moment helps you observe other things and like different trends. And like, why don't you ever see families all together, regardless of race or anything? You rarely see families. It's like seeing a unicorn, seeing a whole family walk down the road. There's always that.
That's
Like
right.
society's got us on this divide and conquer mentality where people aren't all together as a family. Like
That's right.
very rarely.
Someone's
spotted.
working,
Yeah,
and then
someone's
someone's
always
with
got
the
to work.
kids.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
And I think there's so much benefit in having that kind of joint community, and like especially the intergenerational thing, not just dropping them off at grandma's and leaving. Like
Yeah, that's right.
there's so much knowledge that just gets lost through that separation of ages and classes and genders, all of that stuff. Like we need to kind of reunite on a micro scale, and then we'll see it echo out in society more.
Well, that's it. You guys are creating, rather than talking it, creating the standard that you want to see. You know, it's best to kind of be the example. So that's dope. What challenges did you face while creating From Plant to Plate, and how did you overcome them?
Time,
Yeah, definitely time. Yeah,
because you know we've got a young family, and we both work multiple jobs.
yeah,
So carving out space to work, but then you know seeing it as a benefit, like we get to spend time with each other, talk about stuff we're interested in.
That's right.
So then that's like our leisure time and our sort of time together as a couple. But it's just making sure you block out time in the diary, and like at what points can the kids be involved in it? Like we're going to practice a recipe, so then they're brought into it.
Right.
But I would say that finding the time
yeah,
was a really big challenge.
yeah, definitely.
Okay. Last question for you. I'm dealing with Plant to Plate. How do you hope readers will take away from Plant to Plate, and how do you envision it making a difference in their lives? Or should I say, what do you hope readers, will take away from your book?
I think mainly, like, to go back to it, it's the domino effect. But like, you start eating better, you start thinking better, you start thinking better, you start doing better. But it's like a very small domino that we thought we can kind of put in there and share the tools that we've had for it, and then once you kind of knock that domino over, it's going to lead to bigger and better things. Like, because sadly, like, our food systems, they're not working, they're failing, and like people are trying to maintain them for profit regions or change them, and meanwhile we're still here living in the midst of all this going on. And you can see it reflected in products, like reading the labels of your favorite oat milk or whatever. It's one thing this year, 6 months later big companies bought it, now the whole recipe's changed. But people think, oh, I trust that one, or it says health on it, it must be healthy, and then suddenly it isn't anymore, it's owned by a milk manufacturer. But you think you're supporting oat milk, and then it all gets very techy. So we, like, all these signs tell you that we've got to maintain the power. We can't just blindly vote with our pounds and pence and think that the world's going to be the way that we want it to be. We've got some agency in what everyone's got to eat daily. And if it's just one bowl of salad a week that you can grow, trust me, it makes more of a difference than that one bowl of salad. There's loads of different measures you could look into. If it's like the amount of water that goes into like making a tin of tomatoes, it's ridiculous. It's like thousands of litres.
Wow.
You're not going to do that to make the same amount of tomatoes that you grow yourself. Like, think of the knock-on effect on the whole globe and the planet, like, from you just doing that little thing. It seems insignificant, but
it's something.
It's a lot bigger, the gains. Like,
wow.
And it's not just yourself, it's the environment, it's the insects, it's like, it's very kind of, the domino effect. It's very big. And when you sit and reason and think about it, it's rewarding to think, oh yeah, my little action has led to all this positivity, instead of I've just gone and given Pepsi £2 for milk. You know what I mean?
Wow. Sorry, you know, like when you're saying all this, I'm just thinking, my brain's worried, and I'm just like, yes, it's making me think, like, you know, again, like, I've had my little journey with health and all of that, and I've had to change a lot of stuff. So,
are you vegan now?
No, I'm not vegan now, but like, I don't eat meat that much at all. I eat fish. That's but predominantly my plate is just filled with vegetables, fish, maybe a little quinoa or a little rice every day, but that's it. Because when I was eating the other way, I had everything wrong. I remember one time, without making it a long process, my story, but I remember I woke up one night and my body was doing it was just I was feeling certain things. I was like, what's going on? And you know, I always think of the worst. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, is this going to end up to, you know, me just, you know, keeling over? So I went to the doctors. They took blood and all that, and they said, oh yeah, you've got high cholesterol, high this, that, and I was just like, but they kind of just said, all right, bye. They didn't even say, you know, we want you to do this. So luckily, I knew of a black doctor called Dr. Stephen Ferguson. So when I spoke to him, he goes, yeah, just calm down. We can sort that all out. And he deals with the blood. He looks at the blood. So for when he took my blood, and he had a massive screen in his office now, straight away he was like, oh, So I'm like, oh, what's going on? So he said, he was just pointing out everything. He goes, you see, he shows you that obviously we're electric beings, so our blood cells ping. It moves like that. My blood cells, when you first saw them on the screen, they were clumped and they weren't moving. So he was saying, like, what's happened is your blood, as soon as it's hit the glass framework, obviously you're looking, he goes, it's dead, it's died. Because your blood's supposed to, once it hits that, it stays alive for about a minute or two, then it dies. So he goes, that's how toxic your blood is. And then he was showing me, like, those dots there, those what did he say they were? No, there was, what was it? He's saying, that's yeast, that's sugar, that's this, that's that, that's the parasites. And I was like, whoa, all of that's going on. He goes, exactly. And he's saying, I bet I can tell you what you eat. You're Caribbean, right? Your family's Caribbean. So I said, yeah. So you're eating a Caribbean diet and you're eating a British diet. Yeah. He goes, that's the issue. And he goes, you need to change with what you eat. And he was showing me I had gout. I had bordering going on to nearly pre-diabetic, if you want to call it that. High cholesterol, all of these other stuff. And I was saying, wow, he goes, you don't realize that your blood is a conductor. Your blood is taking everything everywhere and supplying food. So whatever you're putting in,
it's moving that around.
Exactly. So if you're bringing in something which is foreign to your body and that's passing it around, what do you think it's doing? And I was just like, and I said,
that's amazing though that he gave that much detail, because I think a lot with the healthcare system, you're not given all the information, but to be able to look at your blood and someone point stuff out, because we're not idiots, but like you need to know, and often you don't get given enough information.
There's that term, out of sight, out of mind. So when we don't know these things, like you're saying, we just thinking that we just eat, and then It's like even like little things like, I know this sounds thing, but I didn't understand going to the gym personally. I went to the gym many times, but I didn't really understand it. But I thought, yeah, you could just eat how you want, push weight. No, you have to have a specific diet, and you need to have consistency, and you need to know exactly what areas you're working on. Nothing's going to change. So it's the same thing I found out with the food.
Yeah.
I'm finding that, if I eat this and I don't, and cut that out, and I do this and that, you notice that. Well, I was noticing that the weight changed for me a lot. Like if you ever get a chance, I shot this video of my daughter. My daughter done the hook. I think she was like 6 or 8 at the time, and you can see that I've got a lot of weight on me. The song's called "Lyrics Over Everything," and you can see that I've got all this weight on me. This is at that time, and then from when I went to him, I done his course or whatever, the detox, if you want to call it, for it was 2 months. 2 months, I lost 3.5 stone.
Wow.
Just dropped.
Yeah.
Lost like 4 inches off my waist and all that, my belly area. And I was like, whoa, like, you know what I mean? I could actually see certain, I was like, whoa. And then that started my journey in the sense of eating right. Clean diet.
Yeah.
You know, so just to hear you guys talk and formulate, it's making my brain worm thinking, wow, I need to, because I won't lie to you, I'm not perfect. There's a lot of times that I slip off. Yeah, but what I need to start to, not to try to be perfect, but what my mum says, not practice makes perfect, she say practice makes permanence.
Yes.
Yeah,
I literally just heard that the other day.
Yeah, my mum's always told me that. So hearing you guys speak, and I'm saying to myself, man, I need to turn this thing into an actual proper lifestyle, because we're spoilt for choice, aren't we?
We are
and
too
it's hard.
much.
It's hard to make change. We were talking about it the other day, but then remembering that we have gone from like eating bare meat to not. So like it's like, I guess it's also being kind to yourself. Like when you do make changes, it's like recognizing that often we're just moving forward. What's next? But also taking a moment to go, actually, you've done well there. You have made those changes. That means you can do more. So I'm feeling inspired to make more changes now.
Oh, definitely.
Conversation.
It's enjoying the journey as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, 'cause sometimes the destination might be further away. Do you know what I mean? You might not get the 2-month results if it's like weight loss, but you got to enjoy the journey and stick to it, and stick to the sat nav that you programmed at the start when you knew where you wanted to go.
All right, so if you don't mind, I'd like to move on to the children's books. My first question there is, what initially inspired you to start writing children's books that are available for people to purchase online?
Do you know what? It's interesting because we had not been thinking about writing books. Like, so I've always written, and like I did an English literature degree. I like writing, but I never thought to be a writer. I went more into like education and like visual art. And then Daryl and I, when we started to become plant-based, we were like blown away by the health benefits. Like that was like our first thing. And so we wanted to share it with people. We were like, you don't have to eat dead food to like be plant-based. It doesn't have to be just this mushy beige stuff that has no flavour. Like, we're excited by textures and colour and bringing Caribbean flavours into it. So we got quite excited as we started our journey, and we started to do supper clubs. So we went from never doing catering to like having 60 covers a night and like selling out sessions and like combining it with music and science, and so it's like this sort of interactive experience, because there's something about like you eat not just your food, it's like you're absorbing your environment, the love, the energy that's been put into your food. So we started to create these experiences, and people really liked them, and we were really excited. And then our neighbour came to one, and she was a book agent, and she thought our food was great. And we were like, oh, well, we'd love to do a cookbook and start to share this with people. And so then she sort of came back to us and was like, do you know what? If you want me to represent you, you could join our agency. And we were like, great. But this was before veganism was a thing. Like, so this was like
2015, I think.
or even 2015. And so it was just a little ahead of it, and so publishers were going, there's not really a market for vegan stuff, you know. it's not really a thing. And then we had our first child, and so our agent / neighbour was like, well, you know, our agency, we mainly represent children's authors, so now you're having a child, would you think about doing something around food but for kids? And so I then first started, didn't I? So I really like writing on the train. It just seems to flow. So after we had our first son and I went back to work, when I was on the train to work, I'd just keep writing. And I wrote this first story. And having our first son, it was just amazing, the response from the grandparents. Like, you see these people who raised you and you're like, who are these people? They are like softies. Look at them. Like, they just want to give this kid whatever they want.
Yeah.
And like, I just thought it was really blessed to like for them to have that relationship where there's actually not any conflict or anything. It's just pure love, and you see them fall in love with this little baby and become like the smallest person in the room, basically controlling the room. And I just wanted to celebrate that relationship. So I was focusing on this child, this boy and his grandma, and just their dynamic. And so I wrote, it's like in sort of poetic form, so it's a rhyming story, so it's got the rhythm that kids can enjoy and get involved in. And I did one, and I shared it with our agent, and she was like, oh, this is good, you know, like, and it was, I think it was set in summer, and she was like, have you thought of maybe doing some others, like different seasons? And so, you know, thanks to her, I then looked at doing these different seasons, and I included recipes in the back because I actually wanted it to be interactive. So you see this boy, he might be learning about how you eat the sun through like eating your vegetables and how it gives you all these superpowers and extra strength. And then at the back of the book, you're going to learn how to eat the sun, how to make something with tomatoes. And so did that. And then no one wanted that for a while, did they? And then lockdown happened. People started to be with their kids more.
Oh, right.
It started like everyone baking bread all of a sudden. And actually then publishers started to go, oh, there's a market for this. People want to be with their families and cooking and being together. And so sort of suddenly the things that we were doing as part of our life became more normal. And so then, the children's book found a home with Simon & Schuster. They really got the vision for it, so that's why we went with them. And they were just like very attentive and engaged at developing each story. And then they've been released over the last year, so in each season. The last one to come out is on the 1st of September, I believe, and that will be the autumn one. And then all the seasons will be out. And they're really beautiful. The illustrator is amazing, Camilla Sucre. Really got my vision and some added, and was just like, she's really talented illustrator. And I just wanted to celebrate like Black family, love, food, nature, and create something that all families can engage with, really, which is spending time together. And then from that, we started to work on or develop ideas for Plant to Play as a non-fiction. And I mean, it was quite quick, wasn't it? Like, once it found a home with DK Publishers, who are amazing, they've like been so created so many opportunities for us and been so dedicated to bringing our vision to life. But that was like a year of writing. And then
it's out.
Yeah, man. I like that. That's nice and inspiring. Definitely.
You never know when it's going to happen. It's like talking to people and like putting yourself out there, and I guess doing what you love.
Staying inspired, I think, is key. Like, sometimes we take our inspiration for granted, but I think whatever puts that spark in you that makes you want to go further, and people are like, why are you so interested in that? That's what you should be focusing on, because eventually the rewards will come. There's other people that'll be magnetized to those ideas and things. Whether it's writing or a podcast or, do you know what I mean? Anything like that. Like, once you've got that little spark in there, it's there for a reason. That's
It's your compass.
Yeah, it's your compass. That's your navigation tool to tell you this is where your energy should be going. And it's good to kind of focus on that.
Definitely. Can you share a bit about your creative process when developing ideas for your children's books?
So like, I don't know, for me, it's being in transit. I don't know why that helps, like whether it's walking, whether it's like being the passenger in a car, whether it's being on a train, something about being in movement starts the ideas to flow. But
Okay.
also we've got small children, so they're just like endless inspiration. They say something weird or something funny or something just like intriguing, and then you're like, it starts the thinking going, and then you can keep testing ideas out on them.
Completely. And also seeing them interact with other kids as well, like kind of highlights what's normal and what's not normal. Like we never did separate meals for our kids and stuff like that, but a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And people assume that kids are fussy eaters, and like trying to understand why. Is that nature? Is that nurture? What's the root genesis? And obviously every situation's different, but
And our youngest kid is more fussy about food, but also we found that if we just leave food on the table and we're all sitting together, he's going to get bored and eat it in the end because he's got it in front of him. He's like, I don't want it, and then you look and it's all gone.
Yeah. How do you ensure that the themes and messages in your books are engaging and appropriate for young readers?
Test them out
yeah.
on the boys.
So you sit down and read with them the stories before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they critique them.
Yeah, and they
That's
tell
good.
you which bit they like, and they add their ideas, and also I guess through doing workshops and working with young people in different education settings, you kind of learn what is appropriate and the tone, and it's really useful because you simplify things, but actually adults can often hide behind a lot of words, vocabulary. If you can say what you're trying to say in the most succinct way with a simple language, you realise you really know what you're talking about. Like with the research we were doing, we're like, how do we explain this? And then you realise maybe I don't understand it fully. Like I need to research this a bit more, because if I can't say this in a simple way, then I don't get it.
I hear you. Yeah. What role do illustrations play in bringing your stories to life, and how do you collaborate with illustrators for your book? I know you was mentioning your illustrator.
Yes. Yeah, so with that, we the publisher presents different illustrators and invited me to suggest some too, and then we look at them all, and it took a while to find Camilla, but when we did, it was like I really loved her colour palette, and I saw she did one image and it really looked like our eldest son, and I was like, oh, that just resonates with me. And then it's about them kind of cultivating that relationship with her and her agent, and then we had an online meeting with her and her agent in the UK, because she's based in the States.
Okay.
You know, she was just sort of asking like, what kind of vibe do you want? And I was like, I just want it really colourful. I want it to feel magical, and sort of, so it's not like super realistic, that there's these sort of magical elements to it. I said, you know, I want it to be a black family, because I want that representation that we don't always get to see. But obviously with the other characters in the book, I want it to be diverse. Like, we live in London, our friends are from all around the world, like we're all communing together. And then something really, which just made me know that she was the right illustrator. It was like this weird synchronicity where it turns out that her agent, we're talking about allotments and stuff, her agent in the UK, her cats come to our allotment, and like they're like these leopard print grey cats, and she's like, they're always in this allotment. I was like, that's our allotment. We know those cats. And it was just like, oh, this is like really weird how connected this is.
The synchronicity. Yeah.
That's dope though. I like that, because you know what, that just makes you know that you're just on the right path, the right journey. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people don't get that synchronicity, you know what I mean? So that's really nice. How do you approach the publishing and distribution process for your children's book?
I mean, we're not involved.
The publishers kind of handle that, so we're kind of fortunate enough to have publishers, two different publishers that have both been quite supportive for the idea, and have listened really for us, especially as first-time authors. Like, I think our experience is quite unique in terms of how they've listened and trusted our vision and paid attention to it. And that's coming off the back of kind of 5 years of having these ideas being pitched around in these same circles and being told like, nah, there's no interest in it. And then suddenly there's like, there is interest, but we would have expected more pushback than we actually got for a lot of the things that we had in the book. But all our kind of demands and quirks and comments were listened to and like applied straight away.
Yeah,
Which
no,
was,
they were really receptive. And like, I think, you know, there are different ways you can do it. You can have a publisher, and then like for us, we were mentioning time being a big challenge, and so having them makes it a lot easier in terms of our time. Like with DK, they've got such a big team that like they can, you know, like, and they've got opportunities for us. They've sent us to Hay Festival. We're going to Edinburgh Festival in a couple of weeks. Like, there are all these different things that they've lined up for us, which is great. But, you know, we do know people who self-publish as well, and there's value in that. And if you do have the kind of knowledge to be able to know what weight paper you want, the different printers, like designers.
No good editor.
Always have an editor, whether you're self-publishing or not, just like to spot those little errors or like make things make more sense.
Smooth it out,
yeah, exactly. That there's value in that too, and like you can sell your books in bookshops, you can get a distributor, like you can still get your books out there. So I wouldn't want people to think our way is the only way, but we've definitely, it's suited us. Like,
Dope, man. What feedbacks or reactions from readers have been like most meaningful to you regarding your children's book?
So I do different readings, so I'll and they're quite interactive. Like they use like props and smells and things, and the young people get involved, and so it's been great because I have that moment to talk to parents and stuff.
Yeah.
And some feedback I've got is like it's the first book that their child's read all the way through on their own. That they we took it. We were visiting my family in Dominica, so we took it to some schools there. And while we were still on the island, this mum stopped me in the street and was like, "I thought we were just going to read the first 2 pages." I was like, "We're not going to read it all." Then he made me read it 3 times. So it's like hearing that stuff is just like, that's amazing. Like you think, you hope that young people will like it, but you don't know until it's out there. And so just, you know, and then having kids wanting to collect everyone, and so that, you know, I've been sent pictures of kids and it's like, we've got the 3 that are out now, we're looking forward to the next one. And so just really, and seeing how it brings the parents and the children together, like they're enjoying reading it together, and that's like was the intention. So yeah, I think that's, for me, that's the most rewarding about
I think reading's like very important. Like I remember hearing a stat, I think it was in America, and they said I think it's either 4th or 5th grade literacy rates is how private prisons decide how many prisons to build. So once they know X amount of kids can't read, they know they've got to build X amount of prison spaces, and that formula don't fail. It's not even like anything else. It's literally just being able to read stops people from being like recidivists and stuck in the system. So I think it's really inspiring to see that aspect of it as well, just kids liking to read, because then there's no barrier to your knowledge. Like books are still essentially free if you can get to a library, like
Definitely.
you can still have time. So
Hey, you could even download free PDF books online, but again, no one's reading them. But it's good to hear that a change is being made, you know what I mean? And, you know, people are interested in these books. Have you noticed any trends or changes in the children's book market that's like online or maybe in the real world, you know, that maybe could have influenced maybe your writings or your publishing decisions?
I think we just write what we love, and then we hope other people love it too, rather than being too dictated to by the market. But I think there's been space created for us as publishers have realised that the industry is very white, like it's not diverse enough, there's not enough representation, and so space has been made. Like there still needs a lot more work, but I think, you know, 20 years ago the books we've been writing wouldn't exist. Like they wouldn't be out there, and it's still hard because they obviously, publishers have you know, the bottom line, they know these books are going to do well, XYZ. They might take a chance now and again, but it's hard to do something too different. I know that in children's stories there seem to be a lot less stories that have you know, quote unquote scary bits, like everything, like, you know how fairy tales are a bit like dark and like there's a lot less of that in like stuff that's getting published now for children's books. And I mean, we now are sort of saying we'd like to know what publishers are looking for, then we will look at that list and say that speaks to us, so we'll write that, rather than generating a lot of stuff and then it's like not quite right for now. But it's all about timing. Something will happen and then suddenly it's the right time. So I guess it's for other people out there who are wanting to do it, it's about, if you are writing what you love, at least you're getting some joy from that, and then at the right time that will find its place.
Okay, and it's interesting you say that, because approaching the last question here, and it says, what advice would you give to aspiring authors looking to create and sell children's books online based on your own experiences and successes?
I guess, just keep writing what you love. Listen to feedback as well. Like, I think the universe sends messengers for you. You just got to be open to hearing. And so I would always listen to feedback. It doesn't mean that you have to make those changes, but maybe if something resonates with you, like, oh, actually, maybe they've got a point. Like, don't let your ego mean that you're not gonna, it's like, no, it's just this way, because there might be little things that could really, you know, I'm a big fan of collaboration, so like actually working with other people, it's that hive mind. It's like it can be better with more ideas and perspectives. So, but I guess if you're writing what you love, then that will carry you through the ups and downs a lot more than if you're just churning out stuff because you think it might find an audience. What would you say, Daryl?
Yeah, like that consistency as well. Like if you're going the self-publish route, or if you don't have a publisher, create a system, give yourself a finish line and kind of map out your time to actually finish it. Otherwise ideas can just linger for ages. And like, I know just being creative in general is the hardest thing when you create in a bubble, to know when your work's finished. You could be sitting with a tune and like, oh no, I need to EQ it again. I was like, oh no, I'm going to change the hi-hats. And sometimes you got to put a finish line in there to actually finish the product and then move on to something else and have other people experience your art or your work, because that's what it's all about. It's the kind of the experience. So it's like, trying to not create in a bubble and create that team. I think if you're not fortunate enough to have a team for a publisher, like, you can find people, you can network, you can find people who like to be part of that team. And then the sum of the parts is always greater than them individually in that case, and you start getting more traction and seeing more headway.
That's right. Okay. I noticed from talking to you guys are multi-talented. So I just wanted to, Darryl, if you don't mind, just move into when we was talking earlier on, you was mentioning about you do music and I think promoting and marketing and stuff like that. Could you expound on that briefly so people that's watching can know? My day job, or one of them, is doing PR marketing for a British independent label. So been running for like 28 years now. Okay. And it's called BBE Music, so they're quite known, but not as well known as they should be. But we focus a lot on jazz and hip hop and soul music and a bit of dance music as well, kind of in between. But people would know the artists that we've worked with. Like my boss Peter, he put out Jay Dilla's first solo album, and his last album, The Shining. So he did Welcome to Detroit and The Shining. And he's worked with Madlib, Jazzy Jeff, like a bunch of big names, and kind of curated. He's all about good music, and like the tagline's real music for real people, which a lot of people don't quite understand, but I get it. And it's about championing just quality music. So he's from Ghana, so quite a lot of the labels kind of reviving like Ghanaian high life music that he kind of grew up with. So there's like a set of reissues, a lot of vinyl reissues and stuff like that. So it's kind of understanding the music market in Vortex and kind of trying to place our little stake in there as well, which is tricky with limited resources, considering what
get spent by other big artists, but we do all right.
Dopeness, that's nice, man. So, could you guys plug your socials just so that the people that's interested and are watching, they can chase up about the music, about the children's book, and the From Plant to Plate?
So we're not very good at social media, but on Instagram we are at Electric Future Foods,
Right.
our joint thing, and there you'll see stuff about our allotment days, books, activities, and then independently of each other. So I have on Instagram at Ella Phillips Books, and on X, aka Twitter, at Ella Phillips Art. And then
Me on Instagram, I am Clarticus. That's me on Instagram, a very small page that I kind of do stuff from, and yeah, mainly on Electric Future Foods, or the music stuff. The label's called BBE Music, so if you need some jazz or Japanese jazz or good hip hop, you can head there, and everything's there.
Dopeness, man. Guys, thank you again for being on the Verbal Vortex show.
thank
Thanks for having
you.
us, Cyclonius.
Yeah, man, much love.
Yeah,
Peace.
respect.
Over the oceans like slave boats shipping me. Hashtag that's the only way that they listen be. The vocalist that verifies it vividly. I bring the vortex straight to your vicinity. What is outside is within. The mind regulates the hand that masters the pen. The pen is mightier than the sword, but the tongue is mightier still. The stargate to the mind's revealed. Yeah, yo, what's outside is within. The mind regulates the hand that masters the pen. The pen is mightier than the sword, but the tongue is mightier still. The stargate to the mind's revealed. The vortex.